We got a quorum.
Joshua's not visible yet, though.
Or audible.
There you go.
Oh!
There he is.
It's magical.
That was by design.
Nice. I like your entrance.
Good entry.
Sweet. Okay. Should we call the meeting to order? 7:30.
30.
Porter, do you want to say anything about the nature of the video version of the meeting, or should we do roll call first?
Let me do that first, and then you can call roll.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Porter Arneal, and I'll be facilitating this Zoom meeting. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel and public access cable channel 25. During the meeting, please mute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon found on the lower left-hand side of the Zoom menu next to the video icon. When you're muted, a red line will appear over the icon. Muting your microphone during the meeting will make it easier for everyone to hear. You'll just have to remember to unmute if and when you want to speak. In some cases, I may mute or unmute people as needed. Each time you speak, please remember to state your name and title. Actually, in this case, just your name, for the benefit of anybody who might be listening remotely or on the YouTube channel. In the menu, excuse me, hang on. Is that a horse? In the menu, you can also turn your camera on or off by clicking the video icon. For the purposes of this meeting, please keep your video on during the meeting. If you're participating by phone, you can click *6 to unmute your phone. And I will turn it back to you, Jerry.
Okay, so I think this is how we did it last time. I'll say your first name and then you can roll call yourself or whatever. Because I think we're in a different order on everyone's screen. So Jerry Johnson, Kate? You're on mute, Kate.
I was following the rules.
You were following directions.
Kate Denine, now I'm muting.
Christina.
Christina Walker.
John. Mary. Sorry.
Mary Doveton.
Denise.
Denise Stone.
Marlo.
Marlo Angel.
Joshua.
Joshua Foley.
And then we have some guests.
No, actually, those are, Clint just came, but the 3 computers you see are actually related to the video broadcast. But Clint is just arriving, so you can call him in too.
Waiting.
Porter, we do have 2 guests, Michael Davidson and Kimberly Ansbach. Just saying.
They're so familiar to me, I was rude and didn't consider them guests. I was like, they're family.
Well, one time I think I included Michael in the roll call, and I got my hand slapped for that.
So go ahead and
That's true.
just have Clinton acknowledge his existence here, and then we can introduce guests. You need to unmute.
Clint Paul here, present. Unmuted.
There he is. All right. Okay, so we did the roll call. We did the thing about the way we do meetings now. Just super convenient, non-personal on every level. Should we go ahead and approve the minutes from last week? Did everybody get a chance to look over the minutes? Last month, I mean.
I move that we approve the minutes unless there's discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Was that Clint that second?
Clint, yes. Lots of hands. And anybody not approving? Anybody abstaining? No. The minutes are good.
Now you can introduce our guests.
All right, we have some guests that are going to talk about Final Friday planning. We have Michael Davidson and Kimberly Onspach. Is that correct? All right.
So I'll kick this off with a little background. Last week, all my staff was off. Even though we're all working remotely, they were all not working. So it gave me time to just do a lot of thinking. And I've been thinking that we have been, since March, totally in reactive mode. We're reacting. We're not being proactive. So at the Arts Roundtable last week, I brought up the idea of how we're going to get Final Fridays up and running again. It has gone into fairly much of a hibernation. Some people have done it, but there's been no coordinated effort. And as you know, a number of years ago, it's quite a while ago, that we came to the Arts Commission and said that we wanted to be the marketing arm for Final Fridays. And I think we've done a real good job with that. We put some dollars behind it. We created a landing page. We've done a lot to really keep it going, and we need to think about how to bring it back. And it was the discussion at the Arts Roundtable, maybe in September, that we kind of look at targeting bringing back Final Friday, trying to get all the venues back to think about it, run an event, and get us rolling again. Fall is always a really strong time for Final Fridays, and we just wanted to come to you and talk to you about how we can move this ahead and get Final Fridays, one of the unmistakably Lawrence signature events, back up and running. So that's what the discussion is, and that's what we want to kind of talk to you about.
I've got a question. Does anybody know Kansas City does with Fridays?
I haven't received any information. I don't think they're doing them, are they?
I was just wondering, or if, even further out, if there are other groups out there who are other municipalities who have a similar program and what they're doing. Do we have that information? Do we know where to look for that information?
Well, there's events that happen in Topeka. There are events that happen in KCK. Where else, Kim, have we been looking when we've been marketing our Final Fridays?
We have marketing in St. Louis as well as the two markets you mentioned.
Yeah. So what we would do is we would geo-fence those areas, and whenever their art event was, first Fridays, third Tuesdays, whatever it was, we would be serving up messages about our Final Friday events. So that's one of the ways we were marketing it. I don't know if anybody else has started up again, but
would your vision for this, would it be, dipping your toe in and having some small thing to see what kind of response you get, or is it more, we'll open it all up and everybody will wear masks and stand 6 feet apart and we'll do the full meal deal, or what are you guys thinking?
Well, I think the discussion that came out at the Arts Roundtable was maybe we should look at creating some outdoor opportunities to do Final Fridays. But I know Kim has been in touch with some of our venues that seem comfortable about bringing the event into their venues. So it's all about how do we restart this? I mean, I don't think it's a question about if we want to restart it. I think we all want to restart it, but how do we do it? How do we get it running up again? Because again, it's how many years has it been going on? It's been going on long before I ever arrived. It was very kind of loosely organized. And again, we came and put a marketing overlay on it. But I think that if nobody's going to take the leadership of getting it running again, it might not come back. That's just my feeling about it.
Yeah, my largest concern is I don't want to be one of those organizations that jumps the gun. I want to get everything started as fast as possible. I'm amazed by the innovation of what the Arts Center is doing, what Haskell's itself is doing, what other people are doing to create like outdoor, safer activities and events, social gatherings even, in a safe way. I'm really kind of just hesitant to like, I'm really more interested in terms of in connection to Kate's question, what Kansas City's doing with their First Fridays, or what other organizations are doing with their social arts events, and are those in following with our best practices medically and safety, or are they creating a prolonged problem by trying to do this? I think Final Fridays is a wonderful thing. I've enjoyed it a great deal, and I want it back as soon as possible too. But I want to mitigate the threat first before we start up with any sort of social engagements that may threaten the lives of our population, of our citizens.
Okay, let me jump in.
Yeah.
Can I
Thank
jump
you,
in?
Mary. Thank you, Mary.
Okay, we have just finished 14 weekends of outdoor theater at Peter Lawrence. Some of those have been drive-in movies. Some of them have been drive-in curbside cabarets, an outdoor melodrama. We have experienced no problems. We limit it to 50 cars right now, but we do have the lobby of the building open so that people can get into the restrooms. So I would feel very comfortable in having an art display in the lobby, as long as people are masked and maintain social distance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of, maybe I'm in between Joshua and Mary there. I'd like to go do something, particularly if it was outdoors. I think that would be great. I'm not sure I'm going in one of the places, you know. I mean, it's just me, and we all have our deal. It seems to me that, you know, since we're arts and culture, and so maybe we could come up with some creative things where we could get it rolling again, but people could also feel pretty safe and, you know, so forth. Kate.
So at the Art Roundtable, one of the things that we threw out was talking about using the loop as a way to promote the arts. And there are various ways that you could do this. You could have people take sections of the loop. You have a visual artist on there. You have a performing artist on there. Maybe you have a food vendor on there. You have a musician on there, another performing artist. I understand that. But so you have sections of the loop, and you have artists who want to participate sign up for each section, or just sign up that evening. So you could have people all over the loop, which goes around the city, almost all the way around the city. And so people could walk, and you could be separated, and you could just walk past, and you could do it that way. And that's another option for an outdoor activity. It's a separate kind of thing. Maybe it would evolve and become something that as a community we wanted to do every September, or, you know, whatever time of year. But you actually get some exercise, get outside. You can go as your little family group, the people that you're used to hanging out with, and you go past and you see these folks. And each artist could decide how they wanted to portray their stuff. Have them set back. You know, we could come up with simple rules. You're set back 6 feet from the loop. You know, here's where you go. If unmistakably Lawrence, Explore Lawrence, asking us to help out with that. At this point, I would sign up to go and mark the places along the loop where the artists could be set, where they could go and just put a little number down, and each artist would go to that number and they could set up there. Doesn't have to be hard, but that's one way we could approach this, giving people another way so that the people who, like with the schools, the people who didn't want to be in the schools, who didn't want to be in the galleries, could be outside and they could appreciate art outside. And the people, especially the performing artists who aren't being able to do anything, could have a chance to do that, and maybe they have a jar out in front of them and people could leave a tip or whatever. But that was something else that we discussed.
I think that's a terrific idea, Kate. I just keep seeing these studies of masks that aren't effective, really, in protecting others from those
aerosols.
Yeah, just from those things, and I see them every time I go to the grocery store. I see them every time I go anywhere, so I try not to go anywhere. You all have probably seen that Haskell recognizes that this is a serious threat, especially for our population and for others. And so we're committed to not bringing additional I don't know, causes of spread to Lawrence or to our population, to our native populations. I think the mistake has always been a lack of clarity and specificity about safety first. And that's why we're still dealing with it. And I think the athletic conference decisions could have been preventable. And so in terms of Final Fridays, I just don't want to prolong it. I don't want it to be a threat increasingly and continuously for our vulnerable populations. But at the same time, whatever creative means, whatever creative opportunities we can do, like the Lawrence Loop idea, to still have people engaged is critical. I mean, if we don't want to lose this, we don't want to lose that kind of social gathering, that artistic fervor that Final Fridays presents. So I'm open to any and all possibilities, but safety absolutely first. We've talked about safe social distance. I haven't heard yet what exactly that is. I heard 6 feet, but then I've also seen news reports of 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet, especially in the interior of a building with poor or regenerative circulation. It's really, really dangerous time, I think. So, but I'm open to ideas that involve safety.
Josh, we launched the Lawrence Promise, so with our partners. So we believe in that, and we think we have done good. And I think we're doing really well. I mean, this is a big challenge. It's going to be quite a while before we get on the other side of this. But at the same time, if we don't start generating some activity for our community, we're going to have a slow death. I mean, we need people to go to our restaurants. We need people to shop. We need people to do things. And Final Fridays has always been one of those things that everybody can look forward to. We know there's going to be a lot of activity. It's going to be great for the restaurants. It's going to be great for retail, and it's great for the culture. I mean, Final Fridays. Yeah. So I just
don't want to create an actual and literal slow death for Lawrence residents. I'm really interested in creative ideas rather than I know safety and all of this stuff is first, but I don't want to hear but. I want to hear, so here's what creative ideas we have to present that keeps people engaged but maintains people's health and lives and their own well-being. So
Well, that's why
I'm
we
not-
came, that's why we came to this group. That's why we
Yeah.
came to you. We want you to
That's
help
wonderful.
us form it and shape it. It has been something that the Arts Commission has been very involved with it, and so we want your help in
Great.
moving it out. I mean, we've talked about the next steps. We think it's appropriate to bring together a Zoom of all the venues and get their feeling about it. But I just don't want to, I just think I want to have some proactive things that we can do instead of just reactive things. So I know that I had a short conversation with Margaret about it. She was kind of excited. She says September is normally we're doing something outdoors anyway. So again, if we can figure it out, and we're coming to you to ask for your advice and your help and seeing if we can roll it out in 6 weeks from now.
Josh,
That's
I
I just want to say Kate had a great idea. I think some outdoor activities, even downtown, is still a great idea too. So I apologize. I just wanted to say there's a lot of ideas. Kate offered one that is terrific, and I think others might have additional ones. So
Could we-
Mary, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead,
but
Mary.
you might have some.
Josh, I didn't mean to be cavalier before. We're being very careful in what we're doing. All of our volunteers are masked. People are not allowed out of their cars to watch any of the shows. They stay in their cars. There is a stage erected at one end that is 4.5 feet above the ground. People are either 6 feet apart on that stage or they are masked at all times. Musicians up there are masked. Often we have some clear masks and face shields that we're using. If people do need to use the facilities in the theater, they must mask up and they're only allowed in 2 at a time. So it's not that we are just opening everything up. We're trying to provide a safe environment for people. The most common reaction we get from people is thanking us and saying it's so wonderful to go and feel normal for a couple hours. Mm-hmm. And I think that sometimes we get so caught up in our fear that even the safe things become occasions of fear for us. And what we're trying to do is provide some sort of an outlet.
Well, and Mary, I apologize if I seem to suggest that you were being cavalier at all. I really didn't. It's just I think there's a lot of gray area on what safe is, which is why this pandemic continues. And it sounds like a wonderful event, and I'm really happy that
it's safe.
I'm really happy that you're trying to provide some sense of normalcy, because it's frustrating and difficult and challenging to not have that. And so I commend you and your team for doing a wonderful job and trying to provide all those kinds of ideas. I think are what I'm open to and
Well,
such. So I apologize, Denise, if I spoke
There's
over.
no indication that wearing a mask has led to any kind of COVID-19. As a matter of fact, Kate mentioned several weeks ago about how masks have been used since a long time ago, the 1918 virus pandemic. And, all those protests that occurred in this country, most people wore masks, and there were very few outbursts of COVID-19. This research says that people who are masked stay safe, and 6 feet is a reasonable distance.
Let me, if I can add some mechanical stuff to this, I think is important to consider. First and foremost, nobody canceled Final Fridays. It's not something we program. Obviously as a result of the pandemic, it fell off, and Michael's right, it's basically gone dormant. I think that we also have to remember too that we don't program it. So if Theater Lawrence or the Arts Center or anybody else wants to do Final Fridays, that's really up to them. And then Explore Lawrence steps in and handles the marketing on that. I agree with Michael, it probably needs a kickstart in some way. And I also agree with Joshua. You know, it needs to be done safely, but presumably like Theater Lawrence and the Art Center and other venues are doing, and all the, how many groups have signed on to Lawrence Promise now? It's well over 100, right?
Well, actually over 200 now.
200. So we've got people tuned in. So that's not so, I mean, I agree with Joshua. We don't want to create a situation where we've got 50 people showing up for an event, but I think we also have a responsibility to offer any opportunity for artists to regain some footing as well. So there's a both and here. Kate's proposal is a little more challenging because we can't just program something like that. I think we would have to have Explore Lawrence's help. I immediately thought of Chalk the Loop. We already have a map in place. We can identify places. I want to be really careful not to either indirectly or directly exploit artists. So I think that we have to be mindful. If there's something an artist is doing that they should receive compensation for, we do have to be cognizant of that as well. So I think all these things are factors. But I think before we get too tangled up in safety, that's not solely our responsibility, as long as whatever gets programmed is done in a way that can be easily masked and or social distanced.
Porter, what are your thoughts on, the city has done some experiments and so forth with allowing restaurants and businesses access to the sidewalks in ways that they haven't done before? I mean, is there a way that we could create space, and do for those downtown anyway who were interested in hosting or whatever, that we could use some of that extra space?
Again, that's really up to the venue. We don't tell anybody what to do or how to do it. Kimberly and I often talk to people who want to participate and come up with ideas, and most of the time we say fine, as long as it's an art event, then go ahead and do it, and you can be included in the marketing. So
okay, I mean, from a city perspective, are they giving permits for that? Do they have to apply? I don't know the logistics of how they are able to set things up out on the sidewalk or whatever.
Initially, areas were blocked, but now we've reduced that because some venues weren't happy. They preferred the parking option. So those that are doing sidewalk cafe kind of things and stuff have a special use permit that's covered under the project. So there is a permit required. I'd have to check to see if somebody wanted to go out and play a violin out there or something. I don't know that there would be any limitation. I can check on that.
I'm kind of in favor of the idea of the move through art experience. I think where it could become a dangerous situation is if you have a large amount of people gathered in one spot. But I think like the Lawrence Loop or doing outdoor downtown activities, we've talked a little bit about at the Art Center about perhaps having a performing artist outside, something where people aren't encouraged to stand there and congregate in groups of 50, but just come briefly for a short experience and then move on. I think that kind of formula would work well for safety and artistic experience, where the idea of inviting somebody to experience a gallery for half an hour indoors in an HVAC is maybe a little bit different.
I forgot who I saw that just opened up a venue. Actually, it was an aquarium on Long Island that just opened up, and they're letting X amount of people in at a time. It's a ticketed place, so you get your ticket at 10 o'clock, and then they'll sell X number of tickets for that hour, and then 2 hours later, the next group will kind of roll in. So there is ways to kind of say that, the Art Center is going to, allow in 20 people at a time, and then we sort of we kind of move people around that way. There are some places where it's a lot easier, this space around near the Cited Gallery where some outdoor stuff can happen, and the Cited Gallery is a big space, so they also, they could probably handle some kind of stuff. It's our thought just to kind of bring everybody together and start talking about it. there might be nobody interested in doing it at this point. There might be enough people saying, hey, I'm not ready. And then we don't have 15 venues or 15 locations to do it. But I think unless we start to have the conversation, it's just not gonna come back in any way, shape, or form.
Water's Edge, we all know, is closing, and they had a huge sale a week and a half ago. They allowed 2 people at a time to go into their garden to look at their products. And it really worked well. I mean, of course, a lot of people were waiting. They were waiting near a large parking lot, and they were safely distanced from each other. I think we could probably find a parking lot somewhere in Lawrence and get access to it and have people set up, artists set up, and just allow a small number of people in at a time.
Just from a personal perspective, I did go to Legends on a foolhardy mission last week, and it was like limited where you would wait to go into a store, but it was kind of disturbing because while you're waiting with big groups of people who didn't always socially distance. So like you said, you'd have to really have the manpower to make sure everyone's staying for 6 feet. Yeah, so that's just a little bit. And I have to tell you, I felt so great coming back to Lawrence because, you know, my son needed something and he wanted to go eat. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable eating indoors anywhere. And I came back to Lawrence and I was like, okay, who's on Lawrence Promise? And I went to Fields and Ivy, and it was so nice and like night and day between Kansas City. So yeah, I think we just have to be really mindful about what we're encouraging the community to do and to provide maybe some direction on how to do it safely.
Yeah, I think Michael's point is good. We do need to have that conversation now. And Marlo's point is excellent. I think it speaks to the letter of enforcement. I mean, it's really great that if we can put up posters and all, but if folks aren't following those and we can't enforce that social distance, we can't enforce the mask rule, then it's as if they don't exist, really.
Well,
and at the same time, I like the example. I do like the example from the aquarium in New York, but New York shut down. They locked it down and mitigated that in a terrific way. Unfortunately, a little late. Where their cases are going down, ours are going up. And that's where I just really want to be careful with our population.
I want to ask again, and this is going back to Porter and his speaking about the mechanics of it. I think it's great to have this conversation, but when it comes down to us, what is it that Explore Lawrence is asking from the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission, and what can we do to help move this forward? So if we have this discussion, then what happens when we come up with ideas? Who instigates the plan? What is the job of the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission, and what are we being asked for? And Porter, you have the best answer for what we can do, and then Michael would have the answer for what we're being asked for.
My sense from what I'm hearing is that a first step in this new time is, as Michael pointed out, just to convene venues and start this conversation. And then I start wondering, can we also get some artists to join in on that and I'm happy to coordinate a Zoom meeting. That's pretty easy. And just, start conversing about this and thinking about how can Final Fridays be reinvented for COVID-19. There's a marketing opportunity in there somewhere. And to emphasize safety. I'm completely with Joshua. We need to emphasize safety, and that's our responsibility too as the city working with the health department. I'm writing many things about washing hands and social distancing, so that's already in place. So that would be my suggestion, and maybe Michael has a response.
Well, I think that, again, I think the idea is that, we would take as much leadership as we need, but we do need people to help make things happen. So again, the first thing we think is the idea is to convene a meeting. I like the idea. We thought venues, I like the idea. Porter, that you think we should bring some artists in, and we just start a conversation about it. And maybe the conversation is, what does Final Fridays look like moving forward? And it just starts a general discussion. And from them, again, the individual businesses, have their own guidelines of how people go in. For a period of time, Mass Street Soda, when they didn't see people wearing masks, essentially locked their door and said you can only come in if you're wearing a mask. And now that the county has mandated masks inside, I think you're seeing all the businesses with their signs up there. And I have not been in a business in a very long time where everybody in there is not wearing a mask. I mean, even the convenience stores that weren't doing it, 3 or 4 weeks ago are now doing it now. I can walk into one of those gas station convenience stores and the staff are wearing masks and people walking in are wearing masks. So I think that part of it, I think we've kind of come past that one. But I think I want to get the conversation started, Porter. I think that's really, if it doesn't happen in September, it doesn't happen. But I think I just don't want to be passive any longer. I want to be proactive on something. I want to get excited again about what we do. And right now, with all the funding we haven't gotten from the federal government and all the challenges from state, I just want to do something that's going to make us all feel good again. And I think, helping, the arts community kind of start to rev their engine up is really going to be something that'll make us feel we're excited about that.
I think we've done that, Michael. I think we've got the conversation started. I think there's some ideas. I think we've tossed out concerns that'll represent different
ends of the spectrum that you'll probably hear as you float this idea around to the businesses and other folks. I'm sure you'll hear this range of responses and maybe even some that go farther than that. So I don't know if it's on this body to set up that Zoom call. Porter indicated it wouldn't be difficult to do, and I suspect some from this group would participate in that discussion. But I don't think there's any action for us other than to sort of follow along and see what comes out. And whether or not we can support that. My only fear is the one that Joshua brought up in the very beginning. We don't want to be promoting something that's dangerous for folks. So gotta be super.
I think we add that to the discussion. Porter, do you want to coordinate this with Kim? And we could provide you with all the venues, all the contacts we have there, and then you guys can help find some artists that we might want to invite for the discussion.
Yeah, if one thing I would ask for is in addition to that is maybe Kim and I can just get together and talk through. It may need more than one meeting, and I'm just thinking about just incrementally. I don't see this happening for August Final Friday. I think it's too quick. And I want to, one thing I would say is working with as closely as I have been with the health department. It's not that we don't want to create a situation, it's that we can't. So we have to figure that out. And so that's sort of taken care of because we're working with them. So I'm happy to do that. Kim and I can set up a meeting and start this conversation, and I will invite all of you guys to participate too. Joshua, you had something?
I just wanted to bring up the point, as I'm sure all of you have seen, students are coming back. Students are moving in, and I don't, for KU, and I don't know what that might suggest or imply or directly relate to what happens here in the next month, based on their activities. I don't know where they're from, or maybe they come from minimal risk areas and they come here where it's not a great risk, but it's maybe a slightly higher risk, and they're not aware of that. I mean, I think there's a lot of factors that are involved right in this few weeks that might make September even a little more challenging. But it's something to keep an eye on, just in terms of the increased population. from other parts of the country.
Yep.
It just complicates a lot of matters, you know, and hopefully a good way. But we'll see. I just wanted to note that for the record, as I'm sure you all have seen that on the streets up and down Lawrence.
I had one other thought. You know, I wondered about, you know, if, you know, when you're getting the venues together, could, you know, you look for kind of a midway, a midpoint where maybe they're encouraged to do art that they can display in their storefronts. And maybe even some, you know, some businesses that don't usually participate, you know, might want to put some art in their front window so that it would actually be like a gallery walk where you don't go in. But it's still kind of creating that First Friday atmosphere, but allowing people to be outside.
That's the creative thinking that that's the creative thinking we can, you know, that's what I think will emerge from this. And actually the tagline we've been using is safe and smart. And so why not make safe and smart art too?
Love it.
Well, thank you guys for the opportunity, and we'll see where we go for the next step. And again, I always enjoy this group, and I don't mind if you call me in the role. I'll say yes.
Thanks for bringing this, Michael and Kimberly.
Yeah.
You're welcome. We'll see you all later. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's what we had for new business. Is there anything else before we move on to old business that anyone wanted to?
Are we going to talk about the economic survey that's being done? Is that on the agenda?
I wrote a whole bunch of things to get to, and that's on the list.
Okay.
But there was a thing about the benches. Porter, are you presenting that?
Yes. Let me give a preface here. So if you guys will remember, back before the pandemic, we worked with Mandy Enfield, who's working with East 9th Street Project and the Art Place Project. And Mona Cliff proposed making benches for a couple of transit stops, and then possibly in Burroughs Creek Park at about 11th Street. And as you can imagine, that kind of got on hold. You all basically approved that. I don't remember exactly when, but it was approved. But I thought since we've sort of resurrected this, and I've met with them recently with our new transit director, I just wanted to bring it back to you and make sure you guys were all up to speed on this. So let me go to my presentation here. Oops, everything jumped to other screens. Bear with me. Can you all see?
I can see, yeah.
All right. So quick refresher here. Hang on, it won't let me. There we go. So as part of the Rebuilding East 9th Street Public Art Program, Mona Cliff proposed designing and developing these benches for two bus stops, one near 11th, well, both of them near 11th and Delaware Street, and you can see the two locations here. We did a lot of work at the end of 2019 in getting all of this coordinated. And then the transit director was, we were searching for a new transit director. Adam Weigel was hired mid-pandemic. He's been doing a great job, including developing plans for adding seating and improving bus stops in town. So this has jibed really well. So everything is moving forward. Mona, Adam, Mandy, and I all have met on site with various other people who are helping out. And we've kind of gotten this thing back on track. And so, like I said, you've approved this, but I want to bring it back to you for sort of a reapproval under new circumstances. These are just the locations that we're looking at. Part of the challenge was that a concrete pad has to go in for ADA accessibility, so a lot of this required some engineering that's happening through the city's Municipal Services and Operations Department. But that is underway. There's some challenge here in the sense that they have to have some kind of retaining wall to pull back a little bit and have enough space for a wheelchair to move through, but they are working on that as well. These are the 3 bench designs, basically for the bus stops. They're all made out of wood. We've worked out a contract because we are aware that wood will not hold up long-term. So basically what we've added in the contract is that if and when they start to deteriorate, then we would go back to Mona and consider, repairing them, or eventually taking them out and replacing them if necessary. Hopefully they'll hold up really well, but wood doesn't hold up forever. And these are just pictures of us on site, looking at the site and trying to figure all this stuff out. And more site shots. So what I'm looking for you all, go ahead, is there any questions, one?
Yeah. What does it mean that we approved? I mean, what's our stake in this?
Basically, your role, this is public art going on right of way. So
Okay.
basically it needs your approval to be installed, even though it's utilitarian as well and they really are benches.
I don't have a problem with that, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just want to get this back in front of you, tell you that we are moving forward with it, and just sort of get your a formal second blessing so we can move forward on this in earnest.
Well, I would say they're not nearly as creative as some of the ad hoc impromptu pieces that I've seen around town. Some of those are really cool. But these look like they may hold up a little bit longer.
I've got a question about the base post ground fixtures to be determined. Are they going to put in a concrete slab?
So Transit is working, oh, go ahead, sorry.
If they put a concrete slab in, the wood should last longer than just sticking it in the ground or doing fixed posts. I'm not sure what they mean by fixed posts, but I mean, the work that I do, it's with metal, so obviously it'll last longer than the wood, but doing it into concrete would be better, and it doesn't look like that's been determined yet.
These would be mounted on top of the concrete with some sort of mounting hardware. So you're right, they won't be sitting in water. They'll be dried off as quickly as the concrete is. So that's going to help extend their life.
That's great.
I'm not familiar with the term allowance with an E after the W. I don't know if that's a thing. I was also going to just mention that at least aesthetically for benches, I can imagine better, but no, they're wonderful. I think there are too many bus stops that don't have adequate seating and appropriate things, and so I'm all thumbs up.
I'm kind of in the same boat as I think some other people. I mean, to me, the upper left one looks like an off-the-shelf bench. I don't know. It surprises me that this is in seeing these drawings, that there isn't something more to them being done by an artist.
I think these are part of a larger project. So Mona, just having some experience with the East Ninth project, she has been so ambitious in doing so many amazing things around town. So I think this was filling a need in the community. So I think it was able to be accomplished with the grant funding that she has. So I think I'm really in favor of it because there is such a need for this in the area, and just putting an artistic spin on it and having those financial resources from that art grant, I think it would be a shame not to allow it to happen.
And all of these state that there are some traditional native features that may not be recognizable to everyone. But I'm really a fan of the planter box design. in a sense that, you know, it does have some design elements in the actual seating. But I think a planter box, I'm just a big fan of plants. Having them around, whatever it might be that's planted in them, is a good thing. It might be a, you know, it might be a good experience, an improved experience for bus riders in their travel.
Yeah, and it looks like the wood that they're sourcing is you know, it's not treated lumber from the local box store. You know, those are, at least the ones that are listed there, are nice wood.
I want to second what Marlo said about Mona. She did amazing murals along the Dragon Ford Street now. And so she spent a lot of time and energy on that, and that's a beautiful little thing. And then I'm also part of the East 9th Street Lawrence Artist thing, and we ended up having a little bit of extra money. And I don't know if that's what Mona's doing here. She's using that funding to help with this. I know that she had wanted to do the benches initially anyway, so now she has a chance to do it, and the money's there to do it. And like Marlo said, it's crucial for the East Lawrence neighborhood to have these. And as Joshua said, you can kind of see some of the flavor of the indigenous culture in those. It's subtle, which is fine, you know, but you know, want more grandiose stuff, but East Lawrence isn't always grandiose.
Well, and I don't want to belabor the point too much. It's some tribal communities design elements, and not all. The mural as she's created is really pretty remarkable. But I get to hear the conversation about, well, that's not her tribe, or well, that's not her design. You know, that kind of thing. That's not really traditional to this area. It's a fun conversation for me because I don't have anything invested, but no, I do think, you know, based on her experience, that she will make these, she can and will make these benches really remarkable, and a service to the public in a wonderful way.
So I'm curious with this project if there'll be any planned signage describing what the benches are, who created them, why they're considered works of art. I think that would be important for people to understand that they're not just bus stop benches, that there's some meaning behind it. So does anybody know if that's part of the project?
Great question.
I will, I can certainly pass that on to Mandy, and I'm guessing that, you know, this is a pretty, as Marlo indicated, this is a pretty broad program that Mandy's worked on for now over a year and a half. So I'm assuming there's some, you know, background information on all of these projects. I know that they have a web page and stuff, but I'll ask that question and encourage it if possible.
It'd be nice to have a marker or something for people to read while they're waiting for the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have a burning desire not to continue with the support that we gave earlier? Doesn't sound like it. Is that what you need from us, Porter, or do we?
Actually, I wouldn't mind you know, like I said, a re-approval, if you wouldn't mind calling a vote and just getting a formal approval.
Okay.
Given all.
Would anybody like to make a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to approve.
I would second a motion to approve Indigenous artists represented in Lawrence, Kansas.
All in favor? Can we get hands? I think that's all.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
I wanted to circle back on our meeting from last month. We, you know, wow, what a meeting that was, and it was really eye-opening for me, and I think others. And we produced the letter, and we, you know, talked with the commission about it, presented that and everything. I went back through the minutes and I saw, hello. And I saw really that there were some other ideas that that didn't get such immediate action as the letter. And I just wanted to touch base back with the group to see if we wanted to entertain or work on any of those other things. So there was a comment about getting in touch with the chamber, the Lawrence Journal World, social media, Spark Funds, and Culture Chat. All were suggested around the topic of COVID financial assistance for the entities that came before us. And so I just didn't want to go, well, we wrote the letter to the commission, we're done. So I wanted to open that up to see if anyone had any thoughts, ideas about any of those other things. And I can repeat the list if we want, but Chamber, Journal World, social media, Spark Funds, and Culture Chat.
I can address social media. At the Art Center, we did start a Save the Arts hashtag. And so we've been tagging some of the arts organizations like Theater Lawrence, Watkins, to try to help spread that word. We have like a little profile, Facebook frame for Save the Arts, and a blog on our website. So we've been trying to really push a lot of advocacy with some direct steps where people can contact their representatives and really have a direct plan of action from those. There was also an article in the Journal World. And so that was really great. I think that's the first time we've had an article in the Journal World about arts and culture and the effects of COVID. So that was really positive and reassuring to see.
I thought that article was interesting. It was very much based on the county part and not so much on the city part, but
It was totally based on the work session that we had with the county commission. They did not talk to any of us individually. They took everything from the recording of the county commission. And I'd also like to thank Denise. She had a wonderful letter to the editor in the paper on, I think it was in Sunday. I don't know if the rest of you saw it, but it was a really nice article in support of the arts. And I would like to, on behalf of the other groups that came and bent your ear at the last meeting, I would like to thank all of you for your support and for bringing it before the city commission. I thought that was really important. We were able to do that. We were also able to have a work session with the county commission and kind of get our ideas and our plight in front of them. And we've also been working with the economic impact RSF of the through the county. So in the preliminary discussions of the CARES Act last week, some monies were earmarked for arts. We'll see if that moves forward this week. Nothing's written in stone yet. In sitting in on the Sparks meeting this morning, I would imagine some of the rest of you were a part of that meeting as well. The Secretary of Commerce had a kind of a launch meeting this morning where he was discussing the Sparks money that's going to become available. And there's about $78 million that's going to be available in Kansas for business economic impact, economic development. There is nothing specifically for the arts at this point. And some of what was presented doesn't seem to be too conducive to arts funding, but that remains to be seen. They're going to unveil the application tomorrow, so we'll see what happens then. But I really think that the support that was shown from this group is really important, and I think it will remain important going forward. The arts continue to be in trouble, and the very things that Joshua was talking about in terms of safety and social distancing and all of those things are the things that are keeping arts organizations from going back to economic stability. So it's it's a scary time for all of us. And I would hope that this group would continue to help and continue to monitor that situation.
Mary, the number that I saw in the paper for the not the Sparks, the earlier
The CARES.
CARES, yeah. Can you speak to? I mean, I don't. That number doesn't mean much to me. Is it? It seemed small, but I also understand that there was only that fund had quite a bit less money, right? It was like 24 million or something.
Yeah, yeah. We put together a consortium of arts groups that included the Arts Center, Watkins, Americana, Music Academy, Theater Lawrence, Freedom's Frontier, the Clinton Lake Museum, and I think there were another couple small museums in there. We applied in 2 categories. We applied for $128,000 in mitigation and safety stuff, because buildings like the Arts Center, like Watkins, like the theater, like Americana, in order to be open to the public, we've had to make substantial investments in disinfectant systems and hand sanitizers, and we're going to have to make further modifications to our buildings, possibly in terms of ventilation systems, the flushless toilets, all of those kinds of things that are going to affect our ability to bring people back into the building safely. That proposal did not get funded. Then we applied for, at least in the first discussion, then we also applied for about 300,000, again, from this entire consortium, for some money for distance learning type things to help convert some of our organizations to have the ability to stream classes, do Zoom classes, do those kinds of things. They kind of moved it out of the area that we had originally applied in, but they did move it to an area that was fundable. So in the first pass through, that that particular grant was looked upon favorably. But you have to realize that there are like 8 organizations at least that would be a part of that funding. So it's not going to be very much funding.
So for the Spark funds, you said the application comes out tomorrow. Will you all, is that an individual, you will apply as individuals for that, or will you again group together for that?
We have to look at the way the application is worded. When that question was asked of the Secretary of Commerce today, he was indicating that he thought that businesses ought to apply individually. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It's going to depend, because in order to qualify, you have to be, your revenues have to be 25% lower than the last revenues. But our understanding at this point is that instead of looking at the same time period as last year, so the period that we have to look at is January through June of this year, but we have to match that against July through December of last year. So it's going to be a complicated formula for all of us. So I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I'll just say that my understanding, having had some conversations with the county commission, is that the county was going to submit an application or a proposal and wanted to get, is holding all these public forums in order to get feedback from everybody in the county, all the organizations and sectors in the county, to submit a proposal that helps support all. That's the conversation I had. Um, it'd be different from county to county, but the county would have resources to do that kind of research and do that kind of writing. So I just wanted to share that and from my conversations with the county commission.
Yeah, the county commission, the county money is the CARES money, and the state money that's coming out tomorrow is Sparks. So they're two
Right.
different programs.
Well, and the county commission approached me as a representative of Haskell regarding the Spark money, regarding the Spark funds. So the county is applying for Spark funding through the state and getting input and stuff with businesses, universities, schools, with getting input from all the organizations within the county to apply for the available Spark funds through the state. So CARES money just went out, and I only know that as a federal employee at a federal institution. We were just given a bunch of money and say spend this by next year.
Whoa!
Yeah. So we're kind of in a beneficial spot, which enables us to make safe, smart decisions for our students and population. And so in my conversations, it appeared to be that the county is providing a proposal to the state for Spark funding to represent all organizations within each county. In our case, Douglas County. So I that's my understanding of it, and I may be mistaken, but I just wanted to share that in case that helped to clarify something.
So thanks for sharing about those things. It looks like on my list, there's a check mark next to everything except for, and again, this is with respect to, arts and culture suffering financial economic hardship during the pandemic. The two on the list that don't appear to be addressed, and maybe there's nothing to do there, are the chamber and the culture chat. I don't even know if we're doing culture chat. So not sure. Oh, I know. The suggestion was to maybe hold a culture chat virtually or whatever with the topic of arts and culture during the pandemic. And then I don't remember what the conversation was around the chamber.
If anyone thinks it's of interest to do the culture chat virtually, like we've been doing a lot of live stream Zoom chats and using an application called StreamYard at the Arts Center and the Free State Festival, and it's been a lot of fun and easy to do, but I just don't know if there's public interest in it, if that would be something advantageous, or if it's better just to do the roundtable and get the invested bodies there together and having those conversations. I don't know if the public is as engaged in that conversation with all the other COVID issues and politics going on at the moment.
I would agree with Marlo, unless we can come up with a particular topic and we can have someone who mediates that conversation. And the topic would have to be something that drew people in, because even before we got into COVID, the culture chat was not doing a whole lot. I mean, the people who would come were pretty excited about it, but they would be excited about whatever that topic was. And there wasn't really a holdover through the meetings. So don't know what to say about that, but I don't know if we could come up with something and then have someone lead it. That might be a good idea if we come up with a question or a topic that would be helpful to people going in the arts going through COVID. But I have no idea what that would be. And I think as far as the chamber went, Jerry, I think they're involved with the economic RSF, aren't they, Mary?
Yes, Steve
So-
Kelly is chairing it.
So they're pretty much aware of, you know, the COVID issues that the arts community has. So I'm not sure if there was something else that we were looking at the chamber for or not. I honestly don't
I
remember.
think it was tied into that. That's my memory too.
Okay.
All right, so we got that box checked as well. And I think maybe with respect to the culture chat, we just let that brew and see if there's any energy behind it. And if
Could
there is-
we, this is just, I don't know, maybe it's off base, but it occurred to me maybe having a culture chat related to COVID, you know, at least following up on Explore Lawrence's bringing up a conversation. Maybe we have a larger conversation about what arts and culture looks like in a COVID-19 period. What needs are there? What things are going on? Is that like one of those subjects or topics that people might engage in?
You would certainly get some input. I mean, if you mentioned things like Final Fridays, like our earlier discussion, and those type of, I mean, people would share. I don't.
So Porter, would it make sense for you to send out a note on the city site saying, if you're interested in doing this, we can just set a date and then we can have one of us mediate it or whatever? Or does that make sense to everybody else on the board?
I'm concerned that that's not maybe, you're kind of doing just an open forum, which I'm not sure where that would go or how fruitful that might be, especially with so much going on and entering into the presidential and other elections. That said, my thinking is, I know I'm getting emails from the, Arts KC, and they're doing a lot of stuff in Kansas City, trying to keep artists informed and that type of thing. I don't know if we wanted to possibly, they don't represent Douglas County, but I know that they are very tuned into Douglas County and Lawrence. Maybe somebody from there would be willing to come out and help facilitate a conversation or something, or participate in. I think it's worth thinking this through a little bit of what's the goal and intention beyond just doing it, because there is so much going on, and I don't know that we have any direct answers at this point.
Well, I think awareness is important still, because everybody
that we talk to has the same reaction that this group did, that they don't realize what the plight of individual artists or arts organizations is during this. They somehow think that, you know, we put it all away in a drawer, and then when it's all over, we open the drawer and take it all out again, and it's all back to normal.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
So Porter, are you suggesting that if we did it, it would be, the best way to do it would be to sort of have a fairly well thought out agenda, and then maybe bring in a guest speaker to moderate or to drive the conversation?
Yeah, because I'm, thinking about previous culture chat, and obviously very different.
But to Mary's point, we don't necessarily want to just create an opportunity to preach to the choir. But how do we get other people to come and hear what's going on, and perhaps hear from the actors that are out of work at Theater Lawrence, or the folks that aren't doing stuff at the Art Center, that type of thing. I'm not trying to prescribe this. I'm just saying it's probably worth getting a committee together to really decide what's the best way to approach something like this to make it do what we want it to do.
Okay. What if I volunteer to send you a straw person agenda based on some of the things that we've talked about, and then you can send something out to us to solicit people who are interested in putting a finer point on the agenda, and then maybe we can start talking about who we might bring in to mediate that, if not one of us.
Okay.
I like the idea. I think I like the brainstorming idea of culture chat, even though I wasn't able to participate in it more than like 3 times. But and I think, you know, I think in light of what's happening and what we're finding out about in these recent LCAC meetings, I think it's not a bad idea. I agree that it should be somewhat structured because it could go in all different kinds of directions, but that's all I had on the economic stuff for arts and culture, unless anybody else had something. I have a couple more things that I thought I'd bring up.
Do we have any updates on our city arts and culture funding? Is there anything new in the works that we could expect, or is it too early to look at that?
That's my next agenda item.
Oh, good.
So the question was, or my question that I had written down was, is there any change to the transient guest tax status to support outdoor sculpture, Phoenix Awards? Is there any new information that anyone knows, you know, with respect to that?
No change as far as I'm aware. The City Commission on first reading voted to approve the current budget for adoption, which will happen next week. I think it's next week. And, you know, the same budgetary amount is in there, but it is funded through the TGT fund. So that did not change under the current circumstances.
So
Did we ask for it to change?
How will they prioritize that?
That is to be determined.
Okay.
Did we ask for it to be changed?
Not formally.
Okay, I'm going to be a troublemaker again. I would hope that coming out of the pandemic, we might use what we've learned to see if there might be a way to approach the city about stabilizing some arts funding. I think we can all make a pretty good case for the fact that the arts are important to the quality of life in Lawrence, Kansas, and that the arts are important. And I would hope that we would not be spending the next 50 years waiting for some crumbs to fall from the city budget, but that we would be able to make a case at some point for some stable funding that we could count on, that wouldn't be tied into a volatile line like the transient guest tax. The transient guest tax funds all kinds of things. Part of it goes into the Parks and Rec and things that you wouldn't even think it went into.
Yeah.
I don't know how that would shape up or look going forward, but it seems to me it's something that we ought to take a look at.
I mean, I remember when that got sort of switched over, and this body was not in favor of it. Not that we, could do anything other than say, hey, we don't agree with that.
And the fact is it's one of those things that works until it doesn't work, right? And we've found out how it won't work, and that's when no one stays in any hotels and so forth. We had kicked around some ideas a few years ago about trying to tie it more into the percent for art. If we could hold it really to a true 2% on some of those big projects, you could get enough to, really have a budget for a long time. But then I think Porter brought up that you can't carry money over, and that creates a bunch of other sort of problems or whatever. So, but this is a topic that does keep coming up with this group, and I think the key words that you said there, Mary, were after we come out of this, we may want to press that pedal harder. I don't expect anybody's going to make a change right now for us, right? I mean, if there's no money in there.
I just feel, on a large level, that the mission of the Cultural Arts Commission is different than the transient guest tax. So there's a component to arts and culture, which is visitors coming and experiencing the city from out of town, but there's also just that, essence of arts and culture and what it means to our community. So I think when those lines get blurred and we're tied to TGT, our efforts shouldn't just be to bring people to Lawrence. It's also celebrating the culture we have and doing a service for our residents. So I think it's kind of complicated to have our funding tied to the TGT. So if we can at some point advocate for that to change, I would really be in favor of that.
Yeah, I would too, at least partially. I mean, we should have some that's more anchored. Any other thoughts on that? So the next thing I had on my list was new members. How many are we down? 3?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think it's at least 3.
I think it is.
I think that's right. With Rex going, that's right. I know that the mayor has been working on appointments, and so I'll have to check in and see where the status of that is. But
I've asked a colleague of mine if she would be interested, and she said yes. So I encouraged her to send her application to Jennifer Amanda.
well, what she needs to do is go on to there's a web page. I'll send you all the link.
Okay.
And everybody has to apply the same way. So anybody who's interested can apply. And actually, maybe I can say the link. Hang on. Basically, you go to the web page and the city commission link. Well, you know what? I could show you, because there's people watching too. So
you don't know, Porter, if the mayor has some applications in hand?
I believe there are. They stay in there for a period of time, and so if anybody's applied, and then we sent out a release about 3 weeks ago reminding people that there were open positions. Whoops, and I just wrote in release because I said release. So if you go to the website here, hang on. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
All right, here's the city's website. And you scroll down on this side and you click on actually advisory boards. And it takes you to this page. And right here on the top, that's during the pandemic. Hang on, sorry. Click here to view current and upcoming vacancies or to volunteer for a board. So it's right down here. Click there. And then it brings you to a list of all the different vacancies. And then for general board application, you just go here and click create. There's a unique application for the Community Police Review Board, but for here you click create, and it walks you through a series of questions, fairly straightforward and simple, and then you submit that, and then that goes straight to the mayor for her review. So if you do know of anybody that's interested, that's the first step that they have to do to be considered.
Great. Is there some way to identify for an applicant that they are interested in the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission specifically and not necessarily something
Yes.
else?
If it's still the same, I believe you pick your top 3 selections, which means somebody could say Art Commission and whatever other boards, or they can say Art Commission, Art Commission, Art Commission.
And just so everybody remembers, I think I'm definitely off come December, and I think Joshua's off with me. We're gonna go party.
Okay. And then the last thing that I had.
How to save social distance.
The last thing that I had on my list anyway was we had talked about the citywide art project in last month's meeting, and we agreed maybe it wasn't the right time for that. I just want to keep it warm. I don't know if anybody had any thoughts on that, or
I appreciate that. I've gotten some good feedback from other people too. I think it's a matter of timing, and as Michael Davidson pointed out, we're just getting to the point where of thinking in a forward direction after so much crisis. So thanks. Yeah, let's just keep it floating out there.
Maybe it's more of a spring thing or something. I don't know. I mean, we're not going to do it in the winter, probably. So, okay. Anything else before I motion to adjourn?
Yes, please.
Harry.
I'm sorry, one other thing. You all probably got an invitation to participate in the City Economic Development Survey, the post-COVID Economic Development Survey. Didn't you? And they're having focus groups and stuff about it.
So just a little correction, Economic Development Strategic Plan.
Okay, whatever.
Survey. No, just to be clear, because that sounded different, and yeah, that's a big effort.
Okay, so there is a survey that you can answer if you go to the
city website. I'm sure that Porter can give that to us. It was sent out by the chamber, and it was sent out by the city, and it's been sent out by a number of places. The reason I'm bringing it up is that as part of the survey, it asks people to identify at least 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses, or what they perceive as strengths and weaknesses within our community. And then it also has, how would you describe it, Porter, kind of economic drivers moving forward, or where we should be
putting our time and money and energy moving forward.
Agreed, yeah.
Okay, so my concern is that arts, entertainment, and culture are listed both as in the areas of strengths, and they're also listed in the areas of weakness. But then when you get down to moving forward, they don't exist. So if you take the survey, if you go to the website and take the survey, you just might be aware of that. And if you feel that some additional energy, planning, finance ought to go into the arts, you might indicate that on your individual survey.
I'll at least briefly respond that I think I saw Kate. I don't know who else is invited to maybe some of those conference calls or whatever they're terming it. I'll make sure to bring that to their attention, and I'm sure others who are involved will as well, and maybe they'll modify the survey or make some note of that. Mine's first thing tomorrow morning is the one I'll be engaged in. So I'll be sure to take note of that, Mary. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you, Josh.
And I'll add, having helped on some of the communication on this, this really is intended
to reach as broad an audience as possible and to get as much feedback as possible. This is the city's first economic development strategic plan. If you go to the webpage, and I'm about to send you all the link, there's a whole list of meetings that people can attend virtually. And as Mary said, there's a Lawrence Listen survey as well. So I know that Britt Krumkano and Diane Stoddard are both working really hard to garner information. So I appreciate Joshua saying this. I will pass this on as well. But yeah, definitely this is meant to be open to everybody. And I think even particularly voices that aren't typically heard in this arena, to broaden the scope of what is economic development and what does that look like going to the future, which obviously, as we are hearing, as always, but now under crisis, arts and culture are definitely a big part of that often get overlooked in this context. So I will send this to all of you, and yeah, I encourage you all to participate and please share freely.
Oh, and I'll at least add, just as a final point, not just with arts, but as a administrator at Haskell Indian Nations University, we feel like we provide a great deal of cultural experience and uniqueness that no other city in the country can claim that they have. And so I'm certainly there to support that point, and it's a personal one as well as a professional one. So, Mary, we won't let you down.
Thank you.
All right. Any other topics before we cut this off?
I move we adjourn.
A second.
All in favor? Do we just wave and then fade out?
All right, I'm seeing, just for the sake of everybody, I am seeing everybody waving in agreement, so we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you. See you, folks.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Gary.